Takes place in Mariupol with 20,000 people fleeing. Russian troops are still holding doctors and patients hostage, though, in a hospital in the city.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson will travel to Saudi Arabia this morning in a bid to end the West's addiction to Russian oil, despite the Gulf state's human rights record.
And with millions in the UK choosing between heating and eating as the energy crisis worsens, people with smart meters are now being told their bills could rise and fall depending on when they use energy. We'll have all the latest on that.
Was it not always like that?
No, I thought it was.
There used to be night tariffs and things like
Yeah,
that.
economy at night, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll dig into that. So our top story again today is, of course, Ukraine. It's day 21 of Russia's invasion. And President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has stated that his country will not join the NATO alliance on a day when Kyiv and Mariupol faced yet further aggression from Russian forces.
Well, let's now speak to NATO historian, journalist and ex-reserve officer Dr. Peter Caddick-Adams about this, joining us from Croatia today. Peter, this is significant because there are more peace talks scheduled for today, and this is Zelenskyy saying, OK, this is a big gesture from us, no NATO.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting posturing, but of course, President Zelenskyy has been flip-flopping a bit about NATO. He's been asking for the no-fly zone. He's been asking for support, really, from NATO. And the fact that the NATO alliance has stood their ground and said, no further, we're not going to go down the road of getting involved if that's possibly avoidable. I mean, let's be honest. Ukraine was not going to join NATO before this began, partly because of the state of her economy and the corruption that was rampant through the country, and that hasn't gone away. So even if NATO was on the table, that would take years to implement for Ukraine's own economic situation to be better. So it's easy for the president to say no. And given that Russia was never expecting a long campaign, the Russian forces are running out of ammunition. They're running out of manpower because this is now being brought in from elsewhere. And they're running out of vehicles. I mean, the Ukrainians have been very clever. They've targeted all the Russian logistics vehicles. And we've seen social media evidence of large, long columns of trucks and fuel tankers being destroyed. And there's also been footage of long trains of civilian vehicles coming out of Russia being taken into Ukraine to replace those. And that's not the way a modern army in the 21st century should be operating. So it's been a disaster for the Russians, and they're now trying to find a way out because there's very little prospect of them winning the objectives they wanted on the immediate horizon.
That being said, we're seeing Kyiv being attacked. I think we've got live pictures we can show you of the city this morning. And we certainly, maybe President Putin's team miscalculated how long it might take, but it seems as though he's got the stomach to just keep on going, even if his troops are starving and his ammunition takes a long time to replace. That's the live picture of Kyiv this morning.
Loss, this has a limited lifespan. If we're running out of all these assets, then and people at home are objecting. There have been 13,000 domestic Russian anti-war protesters who've been arrested. Never mind the lady in the TV studio the other day. That's just a hint of the trouble at home. And Putin himself must be extremely nervous about his position, and he's realized that he's surrounded by sycophants who've been telling him what he wants to hear, but that has led him into a path of absolute trouble from which there's no easy way out. Hence, he's got every motivation to come to the peace talks as well and concede. So I think this is the best chance we've got at the moment of ending this war. Otherwise, it could carry on like Syria or Chechnya or Bosnia for years with, as you say, the growth of militias and the East and West fighting a proxy war, with the West feeding Ukraine and Russia sending in militias from all over the place. And nobody wants that.
Well, really appreciate your take on things, Doctor. That's Dr. Peter Caddick-Adams there, who's speaking to us from Novigrad in Croatia there. Thanks. That analysis, just very interesting, a lot of food for thought.
We should add, for anyone listening on the radio, they missed a couple of cameos there from Dr. Caddick-Adams' dog as well, appearing in the background. A little shout out for your pet there.
What's your dog called?
He's Boar. This is
There
Mr.
he is.
Boar. He's very popular on Twitter. And
Is he? Oh, there he is.
Mr. Boar, but I'm sure he's anything but boring.
He holds my notes, so I would be in trouble without him.
Thanks very much
Good
indeed.
stuff.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Isn't it funny how something like a dog or an animal that people would have diffuses the
Just
situation?
humanises. You're talking to somebody, a NATO historian, about very serious life and death situations, but there he is with his pet dog as well. It's nice.
I hope your dog's well today. If you have a dog, I'm a great believer in adopt, don't shop with them. There are enough out there to give them, a nice upbringing.
Yeah.